Okay. Since the beginning, from the beginning of this conference, we have been talking about green and gold model. And in fact, we have been working with the green and gold model in our thoughts for years now. And my starting point would be to say that maybe this model could be considered as a little bit outdated. Why? Because, in fact, you know that there are more and more initiatives that blurs these differences, this contradiction between the green and the gold road to open access. You could think, for example, to overlay journals, but there are other initiatives. More importantly, what I want to say is that thinking from this overarching top-down model prevents us for years now, has been preventing us for years now, to think and to pay more attention to the differences of communication practices between disciplines. These disciplines, the different disciplines, have specific needs for their communication practices regarding the development of open access strategies. And I'll try to show you an example, a very good example in my point of view of this, and I'll try to convince you of that. As you know, of course, you were expecting it. The good example comes from humanities and social sciences. You see this guy, that's, I guess you know him, but what I want you to see and to pay attention is what is behind the guy. What is it? Books. So let's talk a little bit about books and the importance of books inside these disciplines, the humanities and social sciences, and more specifically, the humanities. You remember the research assessment exercise in 2008, where FK established 3 classes or 3 publication profiles alongside 3 classes of discipline. And that showed, based on quantitative evidence, that for most of humanities disciplines, the main channel of dissemination are not articles published in peer-reviewed journals, but books, monographs, or at least edited books. So now the question is, what is the situation of monographs of books inside the open access field? Well, we could say that the situation is a little bit hard. And my opinion is that we are living hard times for books and hence for humanities in the open access world. Why? Let's take the so-called green road to open access, the open archives. When you look at the figures inside the open archives through OpenAIRE, for example, you can see that open archives are filled with articles and not books. Books are not there. You can see they are even in 4th or 5th position inside the different types of documents which are inside the open archives. When we look now at the gold road for open access, when we read, you remember the Finch report, and when we read the Finch report, we see that all the money that the Finch report counsel to provision for transition to open access was to be dedicated to publishing in open access journals, not publishing books. And elsewhere in the report, you can see that it's difficult to encompass monograph within the discussion about promoting wider access to publications. Even Europe ignores books. You remember this recommendation in 2012 for the development of a European policy for open access? Well, you can take the PDF of the recommendation and you can do Ctrl+F, a search, inside the recommendation. You will find 0 occurrence of the word book or books inside the recommendation, okay? And that's simple. Why? Simply because when we go to the chapter inside the recommendation dealing with the mandate on open access to publication, we see that in the eyes of the European Commission, the dominant type of peer-reviewed scientific publication is the journal article, and that's it. So how can we do? Is it true that nothing appears, nothing exists in humanities and social sciences regarding open access? Is it true that we, in the humanities, we are doing nothing for open access, and especially for books? It's not true. Because there are a lot of initiatives, and new initiatives, and not so new initiatives, blossoming all throughout Europe to try to improve the situation and to disseminate and give visibility to open access books in humanities and social science. I give you several examples. First, we see a blossoming of scholarly startups, and we have more and more scholarly, what I call scholarly startups, such as Open Book Publishers, such as Open Humanities Press, such as SDVIC Press, such as the Open Library of Humanities that you know well, trying to develop everywhere to improve the situation. The university presses, they are doing their work hard also, especially in Germany, but in other countries as well, such as in France or in Italy. They are trying to find new models, and they are working hard to disseminate as much as possible the books in those disciplines in open access. We have institutional publishers such as OECD, such as the World Bank, the Commonwealth, or a Nordic Council, who took important initiatives in this domain as well. We have people trying to invent new economic models for the book. And you know, of course, you know very well Knowledge and Latch, which is developing well. And by the way, Frances told me to give you news from the front, from Knowledge and Latch, so I do my work. And I can tell you now that Knowledge and Latch is going to go into a second round with 80 books from 25 publishers, and they have now more than 1,000 downloads per book in 170 countries. So this is a successful initiative in this domain. You see the picture of Frances. I like this picture because she's behind her. She has books as well, but she's more smiling than Claude Lévi-Strauss. I don't know why. Okay, other initiatives. You know well OPEN, a virtual library for open access books, and Elko is here to represent it. And of course, I'd like to talk a little bit about OpenEdition, which is a digital platform for open access publishing for humanities and social sciences, for journals and for books, and for other types of documents as well. So, okay, we have wonderful flowers, many flowers blossoming. So what do we have to do? Is the situation good? No, it's not good, because you know that flowers are fragile. And if we want them to last and to develop correctly, then we have to work on the soil on which they have to develop. So that's why now I want to talk to you about a new initiative. And this new initiative, we have been working on it with several partners for several months now, is called OPERA. What is OPERA? OPERA stands for Open Access Publications in the European Research Area for the Social Sciences and Humanities. You can note here the address of our website, when you can have more details about what we are doing, why we are doing that, and where we are heading to. What do we want to do together? During the last month, we worked together with the different partners to set up common goals for our work. We want to work together to adopt common standards. We want to work together to share research and development projects, to identify and adopt best practices, to benchmark business models, to advocate for humanities in open access community, and to open access in humanities community. We want, at last, but not least, to provide, with the time, unified, seamless services at European scale. For that, we intend to set up a new infrastructure at European scale dedicated to open access publication, especially for humanities and social sciences. The institutional framework we have to work inside to do that is the S3 framework. Maybe not all of you know this framework. S3 stands for European Strategy Forum for Research Infrastructure. You have what we call a roadmap for S3, where the projects for new European research infrastructure are listed, and the S3 Forum earmarks these initiatives as strategic for specific communities. If you are on the roadmap, then you can apply for specific European funds through the InfraDev, the so-called InfraDev calls in Horizon 2020. And it implies also that the states, at national level, commit funding for the development of these infrastructures. So the next update of the roadmap is in 2018, and we intend to work during the next 2 years in this direction. And the overall aim at the end is to set up a legal entity at the end of the process. For now, we are 12 partners in 5 countries so far. But of course, you can see the list of the partners, and some of them are in the room. Elko, you are here. Margot, maybe? Yeah. Here? Okay. Isabella, maybe? Where are you? Okay. So the invaders are here amongst you. And hopefully next year and in 2 years, we could have more hands raised. Because, of course, we are open to extend and to have more partners and more countries participating to the initiative. So please, if you're interested, join us. For the moment, the initiative is very modest. We are like a small cafe. We have good drinks and good discussion, and we are setting up a working plan. But as you know, as history tells us, cafes are places where revolution begins. Okay, just to be more specific at the end, it's my last slide. I'd like to be more specific on the concept of infrastructure. Why do we need an infrastructure? So my reference here is very simple, but for me it's a milestone, this publication and this definition. In the AHSS report named Our Cultural Commonwealth on cyber infrastructures, we have this definition of what is a cyber infrastructure. So it's a layer of information, expertise, standards, policies, tools, and services that are shared broadly across communities of inquiry, but developed for specific scholarly purposes. So cyber infrastructure is not a tool, it's not a set of tools, it's not a project, it's not ephemeral project, but it's between, it's the layer, the true layer on which interesting initiative can blossom and develop once again. I think we have the definition here of what we want to do with Opera. Thank you.